Little Giant Boxing.
Oh man, mi gallo. It's
Yes, sir.
popping, man. We on episode 7 actually dropped today, man. And it's just fun, man. It's fun. Me and Abner always had a good chemistry, good friendship. And we always talked about getting it done, and we were just busy. And then one day I was just like, bro, let's just do it.
Yeah,
And then
that's
we went and we set up at my gym, and we kind of just winged it. But we this is what we do, man. We've been doing this all our life, and we commentate, so it just comes natural to us, man. So it was a good flow.
all right. And talk to me. Obviously, let's get straight to it. So
Yeah,
what happened with Bill Haney? I saw like there was an interview. You guys were going at each other. Like,
yeah, no, man. It was just one of those things where they just took it personal on my pick, saying that I got Ramirez because it was just the wrong comeback fight.
hmm,
I wasn't coming at Haney's skills or diminishing what he's done. What he's done has been great.
right,
Unifying the titles, all that, man. It's like, come on, bro, you can't take that away from him.
right,
So I was just saying that the way he lost versus Ryan was so, man, it was so bad that, you don't know if he's going to be the same.
right.
You don't know if he's going to come back the same, bro.
You think
And
it's
that's
more like
it.
the physical or like the mental part of it?
It could be both. We really don't know. Some guys are very durable. Some guys can come back physically strong. But then at the same time, not just physical, this is a mental thing.
Right,
When you've never experienced that before, being hurt that bad, getting beat down round after round, and you never experienced that, man, um, is gonna affect your confidence. We're human. You know what I'm saying?
right, right,
So, look, am I saying that he can't win? Of course not. You know what I'm saying? He has the skills, he has the abilities. On paper, he is the better fighter.
right.
But Ramirez is not a comeback kind of fight.
Hmm,
Ramirez is a former champion. He lost against Barbosa, but he lost not in, like, he didn't get beat down. He just lost on points. So he's still
right,
fresh.
right.
So that's all. That was the point, man. So then they threw shots at me on Twitter and personal shots. So then that's why I went back and I fired back. And then that's when they got into what it got into. You know what I'm saying? So me just giving my input in the beginning was never personal. It was just me just saying how I feel.
Obviously, Bill took it really personal, not just with you, but also with um, not Chris Mannix, but
Todd,
Todd, Todd
yeah,
Grisham. Yeah,
yeah, which is crazy. And
right.
Todd is doing his job. It's live TV.
He was there to
A
stir the
guy
pot a little bit.
a guy calls you a piece of shit.
Right.
What are you supposed to do? You're on live TV. It is your job. What you supposed to do? Get into it with the man. So it's
Oh,
not fair. It's not fair that you gonna call a man out while he's being a professional and doing his job, and you gonna call him a piece of shit. You don't do that in the interview. You know what I'm saying? You do that if that's how you feel. You do that outside of the cameras. You do that. You do that like bro, like you know what I mean. But look, everybody's different, man, and that's just how Haney rose. Bill Haney, that's how he rose, man. And I think honestly, more of the antics like that is more coming from Bill Haney, and it actually um affects his son because then he gives his son a bad look. So
right,
then I think more of the Devin Haney hate comes from the dad just saying some wild shit and
right,
he's putting that pressure on his own son.
right,
He's trying to defend his son and he's trying to fight for his son, but you actually hurting him because you're saying some crazy shit. And then
right.
you're making yourself be unlikable. So if you're the father, of course, then it's going to reflect on your son. But look, man, it is what it is, bro. That's just, what I mean. For me, it's not personal. I was just doing my job and just saying how I feel, and he took it personal. That's what it was.
He's gonna go through Devin Haney's, you know, mental headspace once he gets back in the ring.
What's
You think
up?
he's gonna what's gonna go through his headspace once he gets back in the ring? You think it's gonna be like he's gonna want to feel that
Man,
first punch, or what do you
it
think?
really It really depends, bro. It really depends. You know, when let me see. It really depends. When I went into the fight with Lemieux, um,
I was there.
I suffered. Yeah, that was in New York,
I
and I suffered a detached retina and a broken
remember.
orbital bone
You
in the
couldn't
third round.
you couldn't look down after the fight. I remember.
Yeah, and I was, I showed a lot of heart in the fight. I was fighting blind. I was, trying my best to, get a shot in, and I fought through it. But it took me a while to get my confidence back after that fight because when you lose your vision and you get a broken orbital bone, I remember I think my first comeback fight was versus Curtis Stevens, which was ended up being a draw. You know what I'm saying? And I remember going into that fight versus Curtis Stevens and just not feeling confident, just wondering what if it happens again? Just wondering, like, damn, how about if I lose my vision again? Or, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And your confidence, that is a weapon. That is a weapon that you enter the ring. You have to have confidence. You know what I mean? Now I fought Curtis to a draw, and but that could be something that could happen to Haney going into the fight where he might feel like, oh, what happens if I get clipped or whatever. You know what I'm saying? These are normal things, man, that just happen to fighters. All fighters deal with this, bro. It's like, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's not like I'm talking shit about him.
Right.
I mean, if he can come back and put on a good performance, bro, then he shows and proves that he has a different gear.
Oh,
And then pretty much I think about what I was saying originally and when we did the talk between me and Abner, I think what I did more was I gave him a layup. I gave him a chance where I was actually saying something not negative, but giving him an opportunity where he could do the unthinkable because this is what I said is what everyone's thinking.
right.
And that's just for him to go, okay, okay, I got some work to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm,
Right.
I'm, I'm do them wrong. That was it.
Right.
Yeah, that
Right.
was
Just to
that.
put
That's
a
all.
chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, that's all it was, bro. I've dealt with it. Abner dealt with it. Abner been knocked out in the first round before. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I've been in many wars. You know what I'm saying? So it's part of the game, bro. You can't have you can't be in your feelings about what everybody's saying, especially when it's coming from a fighter that actually knows what we go through.
Of course. From
Yeah,
one fighter to another. How did you shake
for
that though?
sure.
The mental warfare going on in your head as far as you thinking, oh, am I gonna get hit again with that shot? My eye, like, how did you make those thoughts go away?
Honestly, you really don't know. You have an idea of how you're going to react, and you have an idea of how you want to react. But once you're in the situation, you really just don't know how it's going to play out.
Mm.
And the bravery and the heart comes from just entering that ring. And once you enter that ring, that's just you fighting them demons, bro. You know what I'm saying? You fighting them doubts because you're entering that ring, and that's just stepping up to the plate. And just by doing that is big. So just by Haney deciding to fight Ramirez in his comeback fight, that's a big step in itself right there. Now, me saying it was the wrong comeback fight, that's my opinion.
Right.
But just by him doing it and saying like, all right, let's go. I'm gonna
Yeah.
rock with Ramirez. All right, that shows heart. No one's saying he doesn't have heart. You know what I mean? So you really don't know how you're gonna react, and then you learn something about yourself when you do react in in a way where now you're like stamped as you got heart. You're a warrior because you're facing the challenge. I mean, it's the unknown, and it's like you're doing it, right?
Right.
And that's
Right.
it. The ring is always gonna tell on you, bro. You can't hide in the ring.
The
The
truth
ring's oh,
chamber.
the ring is always gonna tell on you. You really gonna know what someone's made of in the heat of the moment. Because in the heat of the moment is when someone shows who they really are. You know what I'm saying? So in the heat of the moment, you either gonna fold or you gonna step up to the plate. And what happens when people fold? The fans kill them. You know what I mean? The press kill them when somebody quits or whatever, right? But when someone can step up to something that's like the unthinkable and overcome it, then it's like that's what makes boxing so great.
Yeah.
That someone could do something that no one thought they could do. Like R.I.P. George Foreman, when he knocked out Michael Moore, no one thought he could do that.
Right.
And what George Foreman was in is similar to what Haney's in. No one's expect like it's like, okay, what's Haney gonna do? Haney could pull a George Foreman.
Right.
That's all it is. That's the beauty of boxing. You can't be mad that people got their opinions.
Right.
That's the beauty of boxing, bro. It's the drama.
Right. I
Yeah,
love it. I love it. And
for sure.
also, not taking anything away from Jose Ramirez or Rolly Romero, but if that rematch materializes, it's gonna be a humongous fight. The Ryan versus Haney.
Yeah, man, it's a crazy fight, man. I think Ryan has a big advantage on.
Yo, he looks big, dude. I saw him
Yeah,
training. I'm like,
yeah, yeah.
yo, this dude
Ryan,
can crack.
yeah, and he's a big dude. He's tall. He got size on him. So, I think he just has the advantage just being the bigger man. And not just being a bigger man, but just having the quicker hands. Just that speed. That speed is deadly. Speed and power.
Right.
And then, Haney and Ramirez, like I said, on paper, Haney is the better fighter. He
Right.
is the better fighter. And that's no disrespect to Ramirez. Ramirez has done great things in the sport.
For sure.
He's a world champion. You know what I'm saying? Um,
And he
but
and he has Robert Garcia in his corner.
yeah,
That's
and then he has the great Robert Garcia in his corner.
great Robert Garcia.
So, Ramirez is the kind of fighter that he's gritty. He's gonna walk you down, but at the same time, man, he has a great corner. So, and he has the IQ to make adjustments. And one of the points that I made was that since his last fight was against Barbosa, and Barbosa presents similarities that Haney has with the boxing and the moving and the jabbing, it gives Garcia and Ramirez an opportunity to look at what they did wrong in that fight
Right.
and make adjustments where like, okay, you did this in this round, and Haney, this is what Haney does as well. Where now they can see what they did wrong in the Barbosa fight and change that going into the Haney fight. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So it's like the perfect comeback fight for Ramirez.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
They can spoil the party for sure. And obviously, the fight that everyone thinks is going to be the fight of the night, Teofimo versus Barbosa. I think it's going to be the
Yeah.
fight of the night. I mean,
Shoot. You know what, bro? The card is so stacked
it's stacked, bro.
that it's like honestly they could all be the fight of the night.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm
definitely,
saying?
for
Because
sure.
Tio has his beef with Barbosa,
Yeah.
vice versa, and then Ramirez
Barboza
and
is coming
Haney.
off a hot streak.
Yeah, man. And look, man, there was a show that I did where I made a comment about Tio, and I said Tio is easy not to like Tio, right?
It's
I said
easy not to like him.
said it's easy not to like Tio
Right,
in the sense of his antics,
right,
not as a fighter. So
right.
I really when I was doing the interview, I really didn't like make a point on why I said that. Um, so it kind of came off a little haterish, you know what I'm saying? But I think Tio is a fantastic fighter. I think
I
he's
love
a
watching him fight.
fantastic fighter. Great speed, nice power, nice defense. He's a showsman. But I just feel like his antics outside of the ring are weird
Mm,
and it's unnecessary.
right.
The banana jokes. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? There's just a line. And you from New York, so I don't even like how does that fly when you from New York? You know what I'm saying? Like
Right,
that's weird to me, those kind of like antics. And to me, I'm like, okay, like that's the route you want to go. Okay. I don't know why he has to do that because he really doesn't have to. But yeah, but the thing is this is like, yeah, man, look, man, and can he get the big fights? Of course
of
he
course.
can. Of course he can. I think that he doesn't realize that he's already a star.
Right.
He he's behaving like he has to do something out of the ordinary to get these big fights. No, you're Teofimo Lopez, bro. Like you are a star.
Right.
So you don't have to play yourself and be doing this eating bananas and doing these race jokes. It's just weird to me. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Right.
weird. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, and so when I said it's easy not to like him, it's like, yeah, because you kind of I don't get that. I don't get it, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. In the second press conference, I found it interesting that Todd Grisham asked him like, "Hey, who's your toughest opponent or thus far, or something along those lines?" And he said, "It's me.
Yeah.
It's my demons that I'm fighting in my head sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not Barboza. It's me against me,
No, and that's
basically."
true. That's true for a lot of fighters, to be honest. That's
Can you
true
talk
for
about that?
Oh, that's true for a lot of fighters. A lot of the times we fighting ourselves. A lot of the times it ain't even the opponent. A lot of the times is you fighting your demons. A lot of the times is we're athletes, but fighters come from a different background. Like fighters are not like most other athletes. Other athletes, they started when they were kids, and the sport that they're in, it costs money, so they may be well off, and there's certain, you know what I'm saying? Where boxers are from the gutter. We from the
Sergio
gutter.
Sergio tells me that you go from like food stamp to like $1 million paycheck overnight. You're like, what the fuck do I do with this?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And the thing is this, when you're a fighter, you're a gladiator. A
Of course,
basketball player doesn't have that mentality.
of course.
A baseball player doesn't have that mentality. A boxer, you're an athlete, but you really a gladiator.
Mm.
So you got a different screw, bro. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? It's
right.
just different. So and then now you're this gladiator, you this big bad, you got this ego too. Because you gotta look at that card in New York. All them dudes got an ego. I
Oh yeah,
understand it because I was them dudes. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying?
definitely.
Like me in my 20s when I was when I was running when I was doing big in the 154 division, knocking everybody out, and I ranked number one in the division. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, I was a cocky dude. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't an act. I really was like that. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
and you back that up, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. So it's just different, bro. It's just different, you know.
I,
So like I said, you fight your demons because when you're making money, it enhances everything that you think and everything that you feel. It enhances it, bro. So so
like
you
for
might be
instance, like the ego or fake friends or people wanting to spend money or party or girls, right? Obviously,
yeah, because everything is on 1,000. So like there's no most fighters are extremists. Most fighters don't do things you know, okay, I'll just do a little bit of this. No, most fighters, if you gonna party, you gonna party. If you gonna
right.
mess with, yeah, saying if you running with with the girls, you gonna
The shorties,
it's crazy. It's a
right,
lot
right,
because it's like, bro, like you're just programmed different. You're
right.
just programmed different, and then now you gotta shut that down to now go back into camp. And now you got to go back to being disciplined, and you got to go back, and then you got to shake off all those things. And look at you could see it with Mike Tyson. You know what I'm saying? Fernando Vargas, Hector Camacho, Pernell Whitaker, Oscar De La Hoya. His story. Remember his story on HBO? Like, bro, come on now.
All
Is
these
that
guys, Pacquiao,
Pacquiao is everybody?
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It's everybody. So yeah, man, it's one of those sports where you really need the right people around you to keep you grounded. And you got to have people around you that you truly respect because having that ego is very intimidating for people.
yeah.
And it's very intimidating for people to tell you to stop because your ego is like you're a fighter. So a lot of people get intimidated to kind of put you on your place. So it's very important for fighters to have someone that they respect that could tell them, yo, chill out. You know what I'm
You're
saying?
doing too much.
You're doing too much. And when you don't have that, man, it could be rough. It could be rough.
And Gabe, you know, I always think about things like this. It's not just a fight in the ring, but now you have to fight outside the ring. The demons, the girls, the temptations, the parting, and obviously, like you said, someone checking you and you actually allowing yourself to be checked. Be like, you know what? He's right. I'm doing too
Yeah,
much. I'm going crazy.
yeah, yeah, man. Because when you're on top, and the thing is, man, these dudes, they're making a ton of money. They're in their 20s and they're making a ton of money. I think the only ones in their 30s is Ramirez and Barbosa.
Right.
As far as the other guys, they're in their 20s, man, and you making that kind of money. Um, it's like I said, it enhances everything. So man, it's hard, man. It's hard, And then the thing is that like being a fighter and being on the top of your game, you kind of got to have that edge because that edge is like that's what makes you so ferocious in the ring. And if you fix that, then you might not have that beast no more in you. So it's funny like with Tank. Remember Tank said that he would do therapy.
Yeah,
That he
but he didn't
said,
want to.
but
Yeah.
I ain't gonna do
Yeah.
therapy yet.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
I'm gonna retire before I do therapy. And he made a great point because he was like, I want to get fixed. Because I get fixed, I feel like it might make me soft. That's real talk. That's
You
real
think
talk.
so?
Oh, for real. That's real talk.
Why do you
That's
say
real
that?
talk. Because like I said, man, this ain't basketball. This ain't baseball, bro. What what makes you so dangerous and lethal in the ring is having that edge. And not just having that edge, but you have to have some form of rage, but it has to be controlled. It has to be controlled. You know what I'm saying? Um, but I feel like, there comes a time in a fight where, look, man, you can put on a great performance in the sense of outbox someone if you have those abilities. But sometimes there comes a time in a fight where you get hit and he's pressuring you and it's going to turn into a fight.
Right.
It don't come Yeah, it come down to skills, but that's when your heart come into play. You know what I'm saying? And when your heart come into play, it's different. You got to have that, like I said, you got to have that edge.
Going back to what you said, I really love that before where Spence was like, you know what? I regret drinking. Pretty much he said to ruin his career. The drinking,
Yeah.
the partying. I don't know if you remember it.
No, no, I do. Yeah.
He was like, I regret doing it. I regret partying. Like, it, athletes, if I can give you one advice, is like, don't drink.
Yeah. No, man, it's real talk, bro. It's real talk. Listen, man. It's funny because my career, right? You know, I've had my robberies, but at the same time, I fought so many tough fights back after back to back, man. But one of my problems was like, yeah, obviously, that's not the route. That's not the route you should take when you're trying to get somewhere in boxing, right? You have to be strategic on how you matchmake a fighter, right? Um, but what hurt me as well, rather than just in taking that route. What hurt me too was like yeah, man, I partied hard too. I partied hard too, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had a good time, but I was that type of fighter where I knew I could always rely on my heart. So I was like, oh, you know what? I could do one more week of you know what I'm saying, of the BS.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? All I need is 6 weeks.
right, right, right.
Horrible way to think, but I've done it a couple times in
I,
camps.
I clearly remember you telling me, and we'll take this out if you don't want to put this out, but clearly remember
No,
you telling me a great story where you were partying hard somewhere, and then the young fighter was like, "Yo, let's spar," and you're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, tomorrow." And he saw you partying. You're like, "Yo, but we're gonna spar, and you're still partying. Like, you gonna show up, right?" And you're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna show up." And
no,
then
it
you're
was
fucking.
Berlanga. It was Berlanga. Yeah, it
It
was
was
Berlanga.
Berlanga.
It was in Puerto Rico, and he hits me up. He's like, "Yo, he was like, yo, let's spar tomorrow." I said, yeah. He was in camp. I was like, "Yeah, let's spar,
But
man.
you
What
were
time?" He's
raging,
like,
right?
"Huh?"
You were raging. You were partying.
No, I wasn't raging. No, I wasn't raging, but I was. Yeah, I was. Yeah, I had a few drinks. But man, you know what, man? It's like, you know, it's crazy. it's crazy, but that's kind of like, that's just kind of like most fighters' behavior. You know what I mean? Because it's just one of those sports where it's just vicious. You know what I'm saying? But you know, is very important, man. I think that's why when you see a guy like Floyd Mayweather, man, that he was so disciplined and dedicated. You know what I'm saying? Um, that's what makes him Floyd Mayweather.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You,
That's what gave him longevity. He was able to see, and I think what was good for Floyd though was that I think what kept Floyd from those things were that he saw his father on the
right.
like fighting the top guys, and he saw the route that his father went,
Right.
and then he saw his uncle Roger,
Right.
and I think he had an example of what not to do through them. I think that's what really helped Floyd, where he was like, yeah, I ain't doing what they did. You know what I'm saying? So I think that was good for him. Hey, man, Migayo Boxing Pod. You know what I'm saying? Just go follow the page. We just dropped a new episode, man. Just kind of touching down on the Fundora fight with him possibly fighting now Zonder. So that's a great fight. You know what I'm
It's a
saying?
great fight.
Yeah, man. And so just tune in, man. Me and Amber got some dope stuff coming up.